Ladies, gentlemen, and adventurers of all ages, it seems like players of all kinds are really taking this as a wonderful moment to return back to Baldurs Gate 3 for even more playthroughs, as well as a ton of new players taking it on for the first time. Last week we talked about a bunch of items in Act 1 that can either really help you out or are just really well hidden, but mostly a healthy combination of those two concepts together, with the idea being that all these things are a bit off the beaten path, but all of them are worth doing or having. Today we're doing a bit more of the same, but changing locations and moving on to Act 2 of the game with another 10 items, but for the second stage of your playthrough. We'll go through them in somewhat of a progression order so that if you are playing for the first time you won't get any spoilers that you want to avoid, so let's start off today with Minthara. This one is a really big one for any returning players starting new playthroughs as well, as this is something that was only made possible in the first place in a recent patch, so you probably won't even know about it unless you pay attention to the patch notes quite specifically, which is specifically the ability to recruit Minthara as a companion even in a good guy playthrough. Before this patch, the only way to get her on your side was to work with the goblins against the druids and essentially kill off the entire Emerald Grove. But since this change, you can actually side with the druids, and you can kill literally everyone of the goblin camp if you really want to, as long as you only knock Minthara unconscious specifically instead of fully killing her. Then you'll be able to recruit her in Act 2 in Moonrise Towers from that point forward. This way you can have even Minthara and Halsin in the exact same party if you want to do so for a very juicy dynamic between the two. Second up then, we have a pair of rings that are easily missable but quite good to have. In order to get them for yourself, you need to go to the House of Healing area in the center left of the big town in the middle, and in through the front doors of this area. If you take the first left into this room full of beds, in which there is a skeleton here, you can loot this to find the Love's Embrace ring. From here, if you then head out to the cemetery just to the east of the building, right at the base of a tree near the entry gate, there is another corpse on which you can find the True Love's Caress ring. These two rings specifically only work with each other, but are pretty solid in what they actually do. Love's Embrace lets you cast Warding Bond for free once per long rest on a target who is wearing the Caress ring. This makes it so whenever they take damage, you take matching damage, but they also gain +1 to AC and saving throws, as well as resistance to all damage, meaning they take half from all damage. So essentially it winds up being a similar damage number overall, but split between two characters instead of taken by one, which is really strong, especially if you are protecting a squishier member of the party and moving that damage to a tankier one, or even just the idea that area of effect healing can be extremely strong if your damage is split in this way. The crazy part of this is the way that sort of items with spells work is that the effect lasts until long rest and doesn't disappear when you unequip the items, so you can just use them once per long rest, take the rings off, but keep the effect on. And third then, today let's talk about a neat little puzzle that can be a bit odd to find and odd to work out too, and it is located right in the middle of Wraithwind Town, the big town on the western side of Act 2 map, in probably the place that you'd least expect to find an actual puzzle, right out in the middle of the open. If you find this statue, you can interact with the various plaques on it to read what they have, which is just sort of a series of weird letters, but if you read the plaque on the north side, then the one on the west side, then the one on the east side, they actually spell out an entire phrase, which then opens up the southern side of the statue to reveal an entire hidden chamber of Shar lifted under the plaza. Down here is a conversation that you can have with any of your characters in the lead that can result in a major but short-term buff. Interacting with any of these Shar statues at the bottom will initiate a skill check where you roll either intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. You only need to hit a 14 to pass this check, and if you do, then that character receives a +5 boost to that chosen stat until your next long rest, which is a pretty meaty bonus. As well, if you use Shadowheart here, she doesn't even need to actually roll a check on any of them, as she is recognized as someone faithful to Shar and just gets to have the boons for being who she is in the first place. If you pass the check on all three of these statues, you even get a hidden altar, and if you pass a religion check on this, or again just use Shadowheart, you can offer the altar some blood to get some items as a reward as well to go with your short-term buffs. Fourth up today then, this specific new friend is part of a piece of equipment that is a reward for completing a side quest. This quest is started over to the east of Last Light Inn in the Shadow Cursed Lands, where you can find an NPC named He Who Was. I'll avoid spoiling his quest, but if you work alongside him for a bit, you will complete it, and he will offer you the Raven Gloves. These have one simple purpose, and that is making you be able to use the spell Summon Quoth the Raven, which is a 3rd level summon that you can use once per short rest and can just become a permanent companion for you for the rest of the game, just a nice little raven friend to follow you around. Especially as with most items of this kind, you can equip it, use the summon, then replace the item with your actual normal gloves and still have your new raven buddy to hang around with you. Fifth and today we get a little bit funky. There is a shop on the ground floor of Moonrise Towers that contains a lot of solid items, but that part is obvious, you will find these normally. What is less obvious though is if you talk to the commander True Soul on the 2nd floor of the area, you can, through conversation, get a dialogue option that she should provide you you with some extra help with a skill check on it, and if you pass this, then she will agree and open up the secret shop for you to purchase from, which essentially just adds a few extra items to the shops downstairs, but some of them are exceptionally useful. For example, the Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy for a fighter, which give you a bonus d4 of hit chance for every attack that you do on a turn with action surge going, as well just a bonus 1 to strength saving throws. It's just a hell of a lot of value and only one of the items that you get for unlocking this special shop. 6 up then, we have a sort of doubling up, but this one is mostly for newer players or just those who tend to play more on the cautious side of things. In Moonrise Tower is the main climactic location of Act 2. On the southwestern side of the first floor, there is an entrance to the basement, which is quite simply a prison. In this prison are a group of tieflings that you may recognize, as well as another group of captives too, and if you talk to them, you have the option to help them escape, but you may well be a bit concerned by this. The way that this story is moving here, you are essentially undercover, pretending to be friends with everyone in the tower, and apparently a lot of people just sort of ignore this whole section of stuff because they don't want to blow this cover and kill everyone in the whole tower as a result, but it's worth knowing that this prison is actually entirely self-contained. If you kill all the guards, no one upstairs finds out about it, so you're clear to actually do what you want down here. As a result, you can help these people escape, which gets you a really nice robe as a reward too, but you can also use this to get away with killing the warden of the prison, which gets you the Spellcrux Amulet, an extremely strong amulet that just lets you restore a spell of any level for free once per long rest, again being an item that you can unequip after using and replace. 7th then, today let's talk about something that will either provide you with a permanent familiar friend or a permanent buff depending on how you do it, and this is all located in Balthazar's bedroom in Moonrise Towers on the 2nd floor. Once you're inside of here, you need to grab one of the disturbingly plentiful human hearts from around the room and place it in the altar on the side of the room behind the bookshelf. Once you are in here, there's essentially a lantern construction area, and if you have specifically Gale with you in your party as a companion, or if you're playing as Gale, you can interact with this lantern area. Otherwise, it won't do anything for you. With Gale, however, you do get an option: destroy the ritual area with Gale, and he will get a permanent buff that gives him advantage on concentration checks, which is a really solid thing to have if you're actively using him in your party. The other choice is to use the ritual area to create a shadow lantern, which functions similarly to a regular moon lantern for light purposes, but also lets you summon a shadow lantern wraith familiar, and once again, you can summon this and then unequip the lantern just like any of the other item-based spells. 8th up, we are sticking with the Moonrise Towers. In this location over here on the main floor, there is a researcher with a shop who shows quite an obscure interest in blood. If you have Asterion with you in your party, when you talk to her, she will get a bit excited and ask for him to, do his vampire thing and suck her blood. He expresses significant discomfort with the idea. He doesn't like the smell of her blood at all, but you can persuade him to do it anyways if you want him to, and the reward if you do so is a potion of everlasting vigor, which very plainly gives the character that consumes it +2 strength permanently, which can also surpass the limit of 20 on a skill, meaning this is essentially +1 to all strength-based checks or rolls or anything like that for the rest of that character's existence permanently, regardless of any other influence. 9th then, today we have something a touch further in. As you near the end of Act 2, you will reach this little Mind Flayer colony area, and in here there is actually quite a bit to do. One of these things located over here, and then this side of things is a crazy looking brain puzzle, but essentially you just have to connect the colors of this puzzle without crossing streams, so to say. It's relatively simple. Once you do so, you will open up a panel in the wall revealing a weapon and a brain in a tube. There are plenty of brain tubes around this zone for you to find, but this one is special. If you walk over back through the same room, there's this little balcony type thing that you can actually jump over to in the back here that is easily missable, and on this is an item that you can put a brain tube inside of to interact with it and actually converse with the brain's owner. With most of the brain tubes, nothing much happens from this. The waking mind, however, the specific brain tube you got from the puzzle, is a fallen monk. Talk to him through this item and he offers you a deal to purge his mind here in return for his knowledge. If you do so, you get a permanent buff called Githzerai Mind Barrier, giving you advantage on intelligence saving throws of any kind, forever. And then finally we have an insanely strong item, but only for one class. This one is found specifically in the transition area between Act 2 and Act 3, so I'll be really light on the explanation here as it's sort of a major story moment, but put simply, during this section, there will be a number of enemies that you can fight. The last one of them, before you interact with some royalty, is one that drops this item on death. None of the other enemies in this whole section really have any actual loot, so a lot of people can miss this as they just get sort of lazy with their looting, and of course once you finish this and enter Act 3, the item is gone forever. And the item here is the Boots of Uninhibited Kushigo, which add additional damage bonus to unarmed strikes equal to your Wisdom modifier. Again, this is pretty much perfect for monks, and Wisdom is their spellcasting modifier, and they love unarmed strikes, so put it all together and you have some shoes that you'll probably wear for the rest of your monkish life if you so choose. And that does it for today then, everyone. 10 items specifically for Act 2 that are just the right mix of powerful enough to talk about, but also hidden enough that they aren't just obvious to people who are playing the game for the first time, or even just people who haven't scoured every inch of the game. I hope you've enjoyed this then, and hopefully you've either learned about something that's new and helps you out, or even just been reminded about something that you'd forgotten in some way. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.